My name is Rachel Monroe, I'm 33, and I move money for a living in Cleveland, Ohio. People at work call me the firefighter because I show up when everything is already in flames, numbers bleeding red, clients screaming, partners ghosting. I'm good at disasters. I never knew how to put out the kind that wears your last name. That Friday I left the office with a headache lodged behind my right eye. A bond deal had gone sideways and the portfolio manager kept asking for one more scenario, one more, what if. By the time I shut down my laptop, my father's 56th birthday dinner had started 20 minutes ago. I texted Mom, running late. On my way. No reply. Typical. The restaurant sat above the lake like a glass jewelry box. Inside, the private room glowed gold, polished plates, crystal catching the light, waiters gliding like swans. My family had finished. Stacks of plates, wine bottles breathing their last. Laughter that didn't include me. Big shot made it, my brother Mark said, leaning back so his chain flashed against the button-down he'd borrowed from God knows who. My father, Gerald, wore that satisfied half-smile he reserves for televised touchdowns and my lateness. Mom's lipstick was perfect, her eyes were knives. I slid into the empty chair, still warm from someone's coat. I opened my mouth to apologize and close it in the same breath because Mom pushed a leather folder across the white tablecloth like a verdict. Here's the bill. I didn't trust my hands, but I opened it. 6 digits. No. But it felt like it. $6,000. 10 bottles of Bordeaux older than my student loans, towers of seafood, steaks big as mistakes. I looked up. Nobody blinked. That's for you, Ratch, Mark said, like he was offering me cake. For me. I heard my voice the way you hear a recording of yourself, thin, unfamiliar. You're doing so well, Dad murmured, and the room hummed with approval as if we were in church and he'd recited a psalm. Family takes care of family. Family. The word came like a tax I hadn't budgeted for. Here is what I remembered in the crack between my inhale and exhale, the $2,500 MRI when Dad's knee quit driving before he did, $600 when the washer coughed its last, $1,800 for the camera Mark needed to start his brand that became a shelf ornament, $3,200 for a new roof after the spring storm, $4,000 when Dad's car died, little Venmos in the middle of the month that added up to a second rent payment every year. The math sat up in my head and showed its teeth. Over 5 years, almost $30,000. And now, dessert, a $6,000 performance of gratitude. I set the folder down. The leather rasped against linen. I looked at Mom's perfect mouth, Dad's don't ruin this expression, Mark's smirk, my oldest bully, built in. No. It came out flat as a stamp. I pushed the folder back. Forks stopped. Someone laughed and then didn't. Don't be dramatic, Mom said. It's your father's birthday. I didn't eat, I said. I didn't drink. You're late, Mark said. You always pay when you're late. I stood. My chair's legs screamed against the floor. I'm done. My voice didn't shake. Miracles are possible. Rachel, Dad warned, low. He has a way of making your name feel like a leash. I took a breath and stepped away from it. The hallway smelled like butter and men's cologne. The valet ticket cut my finger when I pulled it out. Outside, the lake wind punched through my blazer and I didn't know if I was cold or free. I got into my car and put both hands on the steering wheel and listened to my heart go to war with my body. By the time I pulled out onto the street, every version of me that ever said yes was in the back seat, watching me drive away. I didn't know it then, but the bill wasn't the point. It was the receipt for everything I'd already paid. We grew up in a 2-story house that slouched at the edge of the city line like it wanted to apologize for itself. The siding peeled in strips you could curl like ribbon. In winter, The furnace rattled and coughed as if it were one bad night from an obituary. Mom said we were making do. Dad said we were unlucky. I learned early that words are coupons. You can make a smaller thing seem like enough if you name it right. Dad was a truck driver with forearms the color of road. When his knees quit at 52, he started living in his recliner the way some men move into a boat. ESPN. Weather. Judge shows. He'd grumble about the price of gas like it were a personal insult. Mom worked register at a supermarket, the kind of job that makes your smile a muscle memory. She could ring up a cart and ask about your grandkids and still bag the eggs right because repetition is a religion. Mark is 2 years older and has always been a solar system in which he is both planet and sun. He was creative in school, the kind teachers admire until they have to grade it. At 35 he still slept beneath our parents' kitchen and called the basement my studio. He made merch for non-existent bands and pitched dropshipping schemes like he was selling you daylight. He needed seed money, always. I was notoriously fertile. I was the one who left. The one who lined notebooks with formulas instead of doodles, who learned what interest does when it likes you and when it doesn't. Scholarships. Campus jobs where I counted other people's cash and learned how it behaves when you ask it nicely versus when you chase it. Corporate finance hired me because I spoke fluent emergency. There's a particular look you get when you become the family ATM. It's gratitude plus expectation, lacquered with, we're in this together. The first big ask came on a Tuesday night, Dad's MRI. Insurance won't cover the rest, Mom said in her tired bright voice, the one she uses for customers who complain that strawberries are never red enough. I sent the $2,500 and felt noble. 2 weeks later the washer died. Then Mark's brand needed a camera. It's an investment, he said, chewing Doritos on speaker while I balanced a quarterly report. I sent it. I sent it. I sent it. If you're wondering why I didn't say no, I was busy wondering that too. The answer is simple and ugly. I was raised to praise survival and confuse it with love. When I did the math, late at night, phone screen burning my palm, I told myself I was buying peace. But interest accrues on silence as well. I told Mom once that I was saving for a down payment. She laughed, not unkindly. You'll get there, honey. After this electric bill. It stung the way a paper cut stings, small, surprising, and later, when you use the same finger, unforgettable. People say boundaries like it's a product you can order with free shipping. In our house, boundaries were something you apologized for. You can't charge late fees on guilt. It'll just keep borrowing you. That's how the dinner wasn't an isolated episode. It was a business model. I had been underwriting my family for half a decade. And walking out didn't switch the lights off, it triggered the alarm. My phone looked like a house on fire when I woke up. 42 missed calls. A group chat renamed, Rachel, really? Texts stacked like threats misfiled as love. Mom, how could you embarrass us in front of everyone? Dad, you humiliated me on my birthday. We need to talk about your attitude. Unknown cousin number 2, not cool, Ratch. Mark, on Facebook where he performs, funny how some people forget where they came from once they get their little glass office. 12 likes. A few cry-laugh emojis. I watched strangers witness our family dynamic like it was a minor league game. At noon came the email with a subject line that would be hilarious if it hadn't made my stomach fold, family financial agreement. Dad writes in times like he's addressing a board. The PDF had bullet points, as if bullets were the problem. Rachel will contribute $1,000 per month to household expenses, utilities, groceries. Rachel will assist with capital needs related to Mark's business enterprise, case by case. Rachel will prioritize family obligations over discretionary purchases. Failure to comply will result in re-evaluation of familial privileges. Familial privileges. That would be the casseroles at holidays. The right to be criticized for being late. The honor of being the last number dialed when the gas company calls. I closed my laptop. My skin was hot and my fingers were cold and I couldn't tell if I was angry or finally awake. I texted Ethan, "Coffee. Emergency." He answered before the dots finished bouncing. Ethan is a bank officer with the kind of calm that looks like a sweater. He doesn't talk to fill the air, he opens windows. At the coffee shop he listened while I poured the entire archive onto the table, the bill, the texts, the Facebook post, the PDF that read like a ransom note addressed to my future. He didn't flinch. He waited a beat the way good bankers wait a beat before telling you what you don't want to hear. "Ratch," he said, "this isn't family. It's financial abuse." The words sat between us like he'd put a stone there. I tried to push them away with jokes because I'm good at humor as a sedative. He didn't let me. They aren't asking. They're controlling. They're leveraging guilt as collateral. They're threatening familial privileges like they own your membership. A table of students laughed behind us, someone steamed milk like a storm. My eyes burned in that humiliating, grateful way you cry when someone names a thing you've been pretending doesn't exist. "What do I do?" I asked. It sounded like a child's question. Ethan took out a pen because bank officers carry pens like priests carry oil. He drew 2 columns on a napkin, yours and theirs. Under mine, rent, groceries, future down payment, therapy maybe, yoga I'd always wanted to try, a weekend trip where nobody texted, quick question. Under theirs, utilities, emergencies that weren't emergencies, investments, dinner theater. "You can't finance both columns forever," he said. "They've made your generosity a line item. You need to delete it." That night I turned off my phone at 8. The silence felt like a rash. I put the PDF in a folder called Keep for Court even though there was no court, just a different life beginning. 2 weeks later Mom called with a voice I recognize as the one she uses for store managers, sweet, practiced, persuasive. "Come over for dinner," she said. "Let's clear the air." The house looked smaller. Or maybe I just took up more space. Dad sat sunk into his throne of fabric, the TV muttered sports. Mom's mouth smiled, her fingers tapped. Mark sprawled in the armchair like a king who conquered a basement. On the coffee table, a printout of the family financial agreement, updated to include due dates. "Let's be adults," Dad said, the way people say, "let's be civil," right before they become the opposite. He slid the paper to me. "Sign and we can put this behind us." Behind us? My future. "No," I said. My voice surprised me less this time. "I've given you thousands. When does it stop?" Mom's smile unhooked. "After all we've done for you. Like raising me." I said. "That was your job. You don't get arrears for parenthood." Mark snorted. "Tell that to Dad's 25 grand he's been saving so we don't end up on the street." The room stopped breathing. Dad shot Mark a look that could peel paint. Mom's hand flew to her necklace. I looked at my father, the man who'd texted me on the 15th because the gas bill scared him, and said, very carefully, "What savings?" "It's for emergencies," Dad said, defensive dignity wrapping each syllable. "For our future." I laughed. I didn't mean to, it just broke out of me. "My future is the emergency you've been ignoring. We wanted to see if you'd step up," Mom said quickly, trying to turn the story mid-sentence the way she turns coupons into bargains. "We had to know you wouldn't abandon us." "Abandon you?" I felt anger organize itself into something almost clean. "I bankrolled you. You hid money and called my help a test." Dad's jaw squared. "Watch your tone." "I am," I said. For the first time. I stood. The room shrank to the size of a receipt. I'm not signing. I won't send another dollar. If the mortgage is due, pay it from your emergency fund. If Mark wants a business, he can get a job. Mark exploded, something about loyalty, about blood, about me thinking I'm better. It all sounded like a commercial for a product I no longer buy. I walked to the door while Mom called my name in that soprano mother's save for fainting. Outside, the air tasted like metal and winter coming. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. There's a tremor your body makes when it finally returns something it never should have loaned. Mine was still vibrating when I reached my car. I didn't cry. Not yet. That would come later, in the shower, where sobbing sounds like water. I booked therapy the next morning. A colleague slid me a name written on a sticky note like a blessing, Dr. Maya Simmons, downtown, second floor, soft chairs, hard truths. She listened while I pressed 5 years into sentences. When I finished, she sat very still, that graceful, clinical quiet that means she's choosing the right instrument. You were conditioned, she said, to make yourself responsible for other people's feelings and finances. Guilt is a leash. You can love someone and refuse to be dragged. We did inventory. Not of my bank account, that would come later, but of my rules. The ones I learned by osmosis: be useful. Be quiet. Be late and pay for it. We wrote them on her legal pad and then crossed them out, one by one, and that red ink hit me harder than any zero. I took my numbers to a financial advisor a week later because knowledge is power and spreadsheets are armor. Her name was Peggy, and she had the brisk kindness of a nurse who also does taxes. We built a ledger of the past 5 years: MRI, washer, camera, roof, car, the litanies of small, can you justs that bled my balance. You know this already, she said gently, but seeing it matters. You've transferred just under $30,000 to your family. That's a down payment. That's compounding you didn't get. We built a budget like a house: structure, rent, groceries, systems, savings, retirement, rooms I'm allowed to enjoy, yoga, books, a weekend without debt. We opened a high-yield account and named it home. I transferred the first $1,000 and felt like I'd told the future, I believe in you. I went to yoga because I wanted to be in a room where the only demand on my body was to breathe. I was bad at it in that humbling way adults are bad at new things. A woman named Sarah adjusted my shoulders and said, "Relax your jaw," and somehow I realized I'd been clenching since I was 12. I turned my phone off at 8 every night for a month. The first week, I woke at 3:11 a.m. convinced I'd missed a catastrophe and discovered the catastrophe was my nervous system. I told Ethan I was scared I'd turn hard. He said, "There's a difference between having a backbone and growing spikes." He held my hand like that was what a backbone was for. Work noticed. It's funny how boundaries generate competence. My boss slid me a major client like a test and I passed. Promotions aren't love, they're invoices paid. But when HR said senior finance manager, I had to go into the bathroom and let a few quiet tears do their work. The family text thread crackled sometimes, cousins asking if I was coming to birthdays, mom sending photos of the dog I can't believe we still call puppy. I sent heart emojis. I sent nothing. I practiced the discipline of not explaining. Once, in the cereal aisle where mom works, she spotted me and waved. We chatted in the language of weather and avocados and, I should call you. She touched my forearm at the end the way people touch heirlooms and said, "You always were our responsible one." I smiled and didn't offer to pay for her groceries. Healing isn't cinematic. It's receipts and calendars and breathing for 8 counts. It's the first Friday you don't feel dread. It's realizing your laugh got louder. It's naming your savings account home and letting the balance grow like grass. Thanksgiving arrived like a dare. I planned to skip it until Grandpa Norman called, his voice a soft gravel I can hear through bad cell service. "Come, kiddo," he said. Old bones want to see you. He's the only person who uses love like an invitation instead of a summons. I baked pumpkin pie. I brought whipped cream, the real kind, not a spray. The house smelled like turkey and the past. The dining room table wore the good runner. Cousins arrived with foil-tinted casseroles. Dad carved with ceremony, Mom orchestrated plates like a conductor, Mark drifted in late and hugged me like he was cashing a check. We made it to the green beans before the script resumed. Rachel, Mom said, smile sweet as yams. Your brother's car needs a repair. Only $800. We thought. I'm not paying for that, I said. Calm. Like I was ordering tea. Silence rearranged the room. Dad's face tightened. This is family. I know, I said. That's why I set boundaries. So the part that is family can survive. Selfish, Mom hissed, the Sunday school word she keeps for me. I picked up my water like it was a shield. Grandpa lifted his hand. 91 years old and still the adult in the room. Enough. His voice could end a storm. He looked at me first, soft, and then around the table, not soft at all. When I was Rachel's age, my brother leaned on me until I couldn't stand. I gave him rent, repairs, bail once. A murmur. He always had a reason. I always had an excuse. I loved him and I let him take me down with him. That's not love. That's drowning. Mom protested. Dad began a sentence that started with, in this family we, and Grandpa sliced the air with his palm. In this family we let people live their lives, he said. You don't get to call it loyalty when it's a leash. My throat burned. I wasn't crying, I was being watered. I stood. I love you, I said, to the room and to one particular old man. I'm done being the bank. I'm not the villain because I stopped paying admission to my own life. Mark snorted. Good luck out there. I met his eyes. You, too. I kissed Grandpa's forehead. He smelled like cedar and thyme. Proud of you, he whispered, the words lodging in a place inside me that used to be overdraft. I left before dessert. The air outside was cold and kind. In my car, I practiced breathing like Sarah taught me. Inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 8. My phone buzzed. I didn't look. At home, Ethan had lit 2 candles and queued up a dumb movie that makes us both laugh. We ate my pumpkin pie with forks too big. I watched his profile in the light and thought, this is what returns feel like when they're healthy. 2 months later, a cousin texted that my parents had moved into a small apartment downtown. House payment was killing them, she wrote. I stared out my window at the snow stacking itself on the sill and let the feeling come, not triumph, not guilt. Grief. And relief. Like setting down a box you've carried so long your shoulders forgot how to drop. Spring brought something I had never owned, a closing date. A 1-bedroom condo with a view of a tree that turns the exact color of honey in October. At the signing, the pen felt heavier than it should. I thought of the napkin Ethan drew the 2 columns on, of Dr. Simmons's red slashes through inherited rules, of Peggy's spreadsheet, of Grandpa's trembling hand. We took a photo with the keys and I cried in the elevator where the security camera can't see. We painted the living room the soft blue of a new sky. I hung one picture, a snapshot from a hike where Ethan and I look like the kind of people who remember to pack water. I set my phone to do not disturb at 8 because some rituals are sacred. I named the Wi-Fi boundaries _24 and laughed by myself like a person who likes her own company. Sometimes love is paying a bill. Sometimes it's paying attention. Sometimes it's paying yourself first. I don't know what my parents tell people now. Maybe they say I abandoned them. Maybe they say I got rich and proud. Here's my version, stamped with my own notary. I stopped financing a story where my worth was measured in wire transfers. I started funding a life. When I open my window at night, I can hear the lake if the wind is in the right mood. It sounds like something large breathing. I breathe with it. I think about the bill that broke me and the receipt I keep in a folder named Keep for Court even though the judge was always going to be me. I think about the old house and the emergency fund and the way Mark said good luck like a curse. I wish them all the luck I am no longer required to provide. My name is Rachel Monroe. I am 33. I am not a bank. I am a person with keys that belong to me. And every month, on the day my mortgage drafts, I make a small transfer to home, a tithe to the future, compounding at a rate I can finally live with.